companies approved it.
Well, we'll get around to it.
Oh, it's a good thing I didn't eat it to live. Stand by. A Sunday morning where we have all sorts of weather going on across the United States, with severe weather in the central Appalachians and another round of severe weather in the plains today. Some showers that are swinging into parts of the Northeast. Will they make it? We don't know. Some snow and rain up in the northern Rockies, and blocking, blocking continues all of next week, the first week of May, on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Somebody
I
complain.
can't believe it is May.
I know it's just
It's,
it.
it's
Listen,
May.
listen. My Christmas tree is up, as everybody knows. Okay, I leave it up because when my kids come, when my grandkids come, it's always Christmas at Grandpa's house. So it's fun for
Yeah.
them, and they got to play. They were here yesterday. They played with the trains that are around the tree. Um, but pretty soon, Joe.
You know what you ought to do you ought to screw their minds up. You know what you ought to do? Right after Thanksgiving, you should
Take
take the
the
tree
tree down.
down.
Right. No,
Grandpa, what happened?
listen, in 2 months, I'll be able to say that I'm decorating early for the holidays.
Yes.
And it's very
Yes.
and it's very clever of me. So anyway,
Yes.
uh, what an ugly pattern coming up this week. I mean, it's just there's nothing really redeeming about anything that's going on. So let me get this out of the way. Somebody complained that I used the word blocking too much. So blocking, 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 blocking. Okay, I said it 20 times, and I'm likely to say it 20 times more. It is what it is, folks. I don't understand when people write certain things, Joe, when they complain about what you're saying, in a way that it's personal, as if my word, as if your very word creates the weather pattern that we're in. Okay, I don't understand that. I just don't understand that mindset. Okay, why don't you write? Why are you writing about cold weather all the time? It's cold. Guess what? Temperatures have been below normal. What do you want me to say? I don't understand. I see. I
Right.
don't get that. And by the way, uh, one of my friends sent me a flyer, and this is sort of an unintended consequence. So if I don't know, you have home heating oil, right?
Yes.
Have you seen what the prices for home heating oil are, what the prices are right now?
No, but I must tell you that literally a half an hour ago, I went outside and looked at the gauge on the tank just to see where we are. And I was very happy to see that we're at a point where I'm not going to have to deal with that for at least a little while longer. But
Well, you're
what
lucky.
is the average price per gallon or whatever?
Well, this isn't, this seasonally when they go into March, the oil companies shift to summer stuff. So they stop making they stop refining heating oil, and they go to other things. So, and normally demand slackens very rapidly when you go through March, April, and into May. And a lot of people like to fill their tanks up in the spring if they're just buying on the spot market, because prices could drop down sometimes below $2 a gallon. Well,
Right.
uh, well, because of everything that's going on in the oil markets, and the fact that, and more importantly, the fact that the weather has been so cold throughout overall for much of the Northeast and into the northern Mid-Atlantic states, in a time of year where they normally don't have demand, they don't have heating oil, a lot of heating oil around. There's basically a supply demand shortage. Joe, $6 a gallon for heating oil. It costs you close to, if you got a
Ah,
300-gallon tank, that's $1,800 to fill up a tank, just to stay warm. I mean, you're burning that money away. It's crazy. It's just crazy. $6 a gallon.
I used to have at my house. I used to have a 1,000-gallon tank, but uh, we took it out, and you're not allowed to. What we wanted to do was we just wanted to empty it out and then just cover it back up again and just leave it there. No, you have to take the whole blankety blank thing out, and which is what we did. But now we're down to, and when we had the 1,000-gallon tank, we didn't have to think about filling it up, for almost a whole year. Now, of course, with the smaller tank, we have it says 275. It's really more like 250. We fill it up, every so often. But yeah, it's crazy. $6 a gallon.
Oh,
It's
well,
unbelievable.
you know what?
What's worse, having that or natural gas? There are times when there are shortages of natural gas too.
Well, they're shipping. They're
Um,
shipping. They're liquefying the natural gas to ship it to Europe, so that they don't. So that Europe doesn't have to buy from the Russians with the oil that's go. The rate. I'm sorry, with the war that's going on. So that's put a pressure on for years. Natural gas prices have been so low. I mean, basically running sometimes below $2 for whatever thermal unit per thermal unit. And last week, the natural gas traded back above $7 here. And uh, in Europe, natural gas is 5 times more expensive than it is here. So,
mhm.
as expensive as it is here, nat gas in Europe is crazy. Now, what's going to happen when we get to the summer season with folks that with air conditioning? My mother's not even my her gas bill. I think her gas and electric bill was something like $900 last month. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Her her
uh,
her her electric bill, you mean?
no, she has natural gas. So
Oh, natural gas.
I guess
Okay.
I don't know if they do if it's a combo bill of both the gas and the electricity, but $900 for a month. That's nuts. I mean, that's just nuts.
No, it
Anyway,
is.
so welcome to everybody on this Sunday morning. You actually had you were in a sweet spot yesterday with the sunshine all day long. The wind started to finally ease, which was a good thing. Still have some pretty dry conditions around. So they had red flag warnings up on Friday. They don't have red flag warnings up now, but some areas in eastern PA to southern New England are, with the humidities being so low or have been so low that uh, there is fire risk. But we've got this first weather system that's going to push through. I don't know how much of that rain that's in western Pennsylvania is going to make it. There's a lot of dry air ahead of it, so at least I think for at least a while longer, most areas are experiencing sunshine, and that should continue for a little more before the clouds start rolling in.
And after that, more confusion coming our way. And in fact, I was showing Renata last night, Joe, the great discrepancy between the upper air of the GFS versus the upper air of the European, especially as we go forward. Now, I just want to later on, if you allow me to share, I'll just show you the tremendous differences. I mean, I know we like to talk about long range outlooks beyond, let's say, 5 days. And it's ridiculous. I mean, I was making comparisons between the 240-hour GFS and the 240-hour European last night. They were like night and day. I said, how do you get any kind of try to make any kind of a forecast out of this
Yeah.
when they're both literally on opposite pages, opposite sides of the spectrum?
Well, any time you get a blocking pattern, uh, this is when we always seem to experience these situations where the models just kind of lose it in the long range because there's just too many there's too many pieces that are running around, and any one piece it behaves a little differently is going to impact uh, everything ahead of it and everything behind it, and that makes when you have these west to east flows and everything's moving along, it's actually relatively simple as far as what to forecast because one air mass follows the other back and forth, and that's just about it. And there are usually not a whole lot of complications, but when you're dealing with something like when you've got blocking where you're looking the ridge, you have a ridge up ridging up in Greenland. Underneath that you've got double lows, one in Newfoundland, one in the Azores. There's one has to pull out before the other one pulls out. Then you got the stuff to the west that can't move east because of everything that's running ahead of it. And it just the models really just start to lose it after about 5 or 6 days in those types of patterns.
Right, right. And as far as what you're talking about for this next impending wave of moisture heading our way, I think some of it is going to, whatever we get out of this tonight will probably come during the first part of tonight. In fact, it's beautiful out there right now, but I think we're going to be seeing clouds taking over quite rapidly in the coming hours. A sunny start, a cloudy finish, and then the first round of wetness may be arriving here soon after sunset. And actually, not too far from here, to the west and south, there may actually be some thunder and lightning to deal with. I'm
Yeah.
not sure whether or not we'll get into that locally tonight, but it's all going to happen overnight tonight, and then tomorrow, I guess we'll kind of dry out slowly but surely, or try to dry out, although there'll be some leftover showers. Tuesday looks like a semi-dry day, and then the next atrocity, as I use a Chiappyism, coming our way for later on in the week by midweek as the storm crosses through the middle part of the nation during the day on Tuesday and heads our way for probably Wednesday and Thursday.
And then the next one be for Friday into Saturday morning, which is
Right.
could be a gloom and doom type scenario. We'll see. But take a look at
Yeah.
if you look at the satellite loop, uh, just let me move my little artboard down so folks could see it a bit better. The function of the block. Look at the big. This is the storm in the Midwest, in the upper Midwest. The low has reached peak intensity. If you look at it on a surface map, they're not the pressures aren't as low as you might think, but in terms of the satellite signature, it does look very impressive. You have the upper low, and you've got the rotation, but this has taken the better part of 2 days to move a handful of miles. It's just literally crawling eastward, and the low itself moving so slowly, it's the arm that's around it, and you see it here that extends down into the southeast and into the Gulf states with showers and thunderstorms. And meanwhile, there's this other arm that's up to the north. You've got a skinny little ridge running from eastern Canada into southern New England and offshore Long Island and New Jersey, and that's kind of keeping things protected for the next few hours at least. And to the east of that is the old storm, which finally pulled far enough away so that the winds would die off, but it's still out there and it's just crawling. And this is a time of year where everything slows down. The one thing I was thinking about through all of this and looking at the maps for this coming week, I mean, you get a blocking pattern like this in January or February or March or December, and you're a winter weather lover, you would be having a lot. You could be having a lot of fun with this sort of with this sort of setup. But this time of year, it just really stinks because if you're not, it's great if you're in those sweet spots because then you're going to have nice weather for days. It might not be the kind of temperatures you like, but at least you won't have at least you'll have sunshine. But if you're not in the sweet spot, you're in trouble because then you're going to be sitting in clouds and on and off rain for days and days at a time.
Look at that classic. It's like the classic comma. If that's not a comma, I don't know what is. And you're right. It looks like the storm is occluding to maturity, as they say.
Yes.
And now we just have to wait for first the warm front tonight, and then the actual cold front, which will be approaching our area for tomorrow.
Yes, and here's as impressive as it looks on the satellite. There's not a whole lot of precip with it. You see the arm on the radar as of this last shot on the radar is at from 11:02 Eastern time, so it's running a little behind 11:02 a.m. Eastern time, and you can see this arm of showers. It's kind of raining hard right now in the western half of Pennsylvania, down into West Virginia, down the Appalachian Mountains. I had some showers go by here a little while ago. They're to my southeast, just sitting in cloudy skies. There's another band that's coming out of Alabama. I'll probably get clipped by those, which means my poor dog won't be able to go to the dog park. And we've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings as of 11:15 a.m. going on in southeast Louisiana. A little bit of leftover precip in western Wisconsin. Again, it looks like they're getting killed on the satellite, but you look at the radar, there's not a whole lot happening. And we've got the next energy already coming into the northern plains with stuff going on there. And as far as watches and warnings are concerned, there's really not a whole lot other than the continuation of the red flag warnings in New Mexico, Arizona, southern Nevada. And meanwhile, in the Northeast, you can see there's just kind of this little light salmon shading in New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire. Those are special weather statements that have been issued because of the dry conditions and the risk for wildfires. There were a couple of wildfires that broke out in parts of the mountains in Pennsylvania over the last couple of days. This is serious stuff when it happens, folks. So if you're outside dealing with anything that's flammable, please be extra cautious and make sure that you don't accidentally you don't want to accidentally start off a raging blaze.
I have some. I'm as I've said many times, where I live, I'm surrounded on three sides. My house has three sides of the house has trees of 50 to 75 feet high, and we call it the woods. Sometimes we do some raking or mulching, and I'm like, Joe, get rid of all that, throw it in the woods or whatever. And like, God help if I went in there with a lighted match during a spell of very dry weather like that. That's it. It would be
Oh
all
yeah.
over, and you get to be a little paranoid when we get into these periods of dry weather like what we have right now.
Especially dry pine, as that burns up. That just goes
Yeah.
up almost instantly, or birch if it's really dry. Storm Prediction Center today, they're going to be busy. We have enhanced risk in West Texas, eastern New Mexico, larger area of slight risk being indicated there. We also have a marginal risk. Joe, they got the general thunderstorm edge, SPC does, from New York City northwestward to, draw a line from New York City to Binghamton to about Rochester, and that's where the northern edge of the general thunderstorm line is into tomorrow morning. But they do have a slight risk in southern Virginia, northern North Carolina, marginal risk that pushes up into western Ohio, I'm sorry, eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and that marginal risk extends down through Georgia and into Alabama and across lower southern Louisiana back to the big area that's out in the plain states. It was a busy severe weather day late last week, especially in and around Kansas. They had a moderate risk up on Friday, which sort of knew that was going to happen. And there were a number of tornadoes and quite a bit of destruction. You might have seen it in the news. Meanwhile, for tomorrow, we've got enhanced risk in Oklahoma and southern Kansas again. Slight risk that turns eastward into Missouri and northern Arkansas. For day 3, we've got risk being indicated from northeast Arkansas northeastward into southeast Ohio with a slight risk in western and central Kentucky, southern Indiana, and northwest Tennessee. And SPC's got already an enhanced risk on their day 4 outlook. This is for Wednesday into Thursday over Oklahoma. The big air, 30% there. You don't often see in the enhanced risk showing up, the enhanced risk percentage showing up this early. So this is probably going to be something serious to look at as we move through the next couple of days. Day 5, that risk turns eastward to northeast Texas, northeastward into Missouri with a slight risk. So we've got 2 long-range days in the SPC outlook to think about for this coming week. And this last image here is for Thursday into Friday, and the rest of the forecast period predictability is deemed too low. WPC in terms of rainfall. Now this is going to be interesting, Joe, with respect to rainfall this week, because a lot of this is going to hinge on what happens, I think, with the last system. Although even the system on Wednesday is going to play a role in this as to how much rain falls. And right now they're looking at least for the week, it looks like about 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter from southern New England down into southern New Jersey, and then you start to get into bigger amounts across the Delmarva Peninsula in Virginia, particularly in northern West Virginia, southwestern PA, and then you go back westward and into the plains, and you're seeing some 2 to 3 inch amounts being indicated there. So, how these systems behave, we might see this rainfall forecast change a bit as we figure out whether these systems are going to get allowed to be pushed further north, or are they going to be, or which is quite possible that they could also wind up being a little more suppressed.
And look at that southwestern U.S. where they need the moisture badly. When the one part of the country that could use any kind of moisture, and it's like, as I said back on Thursday, it's like a dome is right over that area and is just absolutely shutting out any kind of precipitation. Although I mentioned also to Renata, Joe, that the fact that it's dry out there doesn't necessarily mean that it's bright and sunny. A lot of the moisture from the Pacific and these troughs that are passing just to the north of the desert Southwest are resulting in moisture that is reaching the southwestern states and translating into clouds, mid and high level clouds. So, I mean, it's not like a cloudy pattern out in the Southwest, but a lot of high and mid level clouds giving kind of a milkiness to the sky. And that's all that you're able to get out of that because, again, near the surface, the dew points are so low. It's so very, very dry. And meanwhile, just look at the central part of the United States. Look at our neck of the woods. I mean, it's crazy. Everybody's got it except for the Southwest, and that's again where the red flags are flying, and that's where they dearly need the moisture. Otherwise, well, they already are, but they're going to continue to get into deeper and deeper trouble in terms of drought this spring and on into the summer.
All right. So why don't you go ahead? You said you wanted to show some maps, so why don't you go ahead and do that, and I could set up the GFS, and in the meantime, for when you're done.
Okay, well, I'll let me just show you first of all the GFS, the upper air of the GFS from Tropical Tidbits, and we thank Mr. Levy for providing this for us so that we were able to.
The great Levi Cowan.
Yes, Mr. Lee. I call him Mr. Levy.
Okay. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't want to sound wry, so to speak, by saying that, but in any case, look, this is the upper air pattern at 500 millibars for this is for 0Z May 11th. This is the 240-hour prog. This is from last night's 0Z run. I just want to see here if I enlarge this. Will that look any better? Or maybe it does. Let's take a look at this. This is now what we have here on May 11th is a ridge poking up along the eastern seaboard right here. And you have all kinds of troughiness going on. We have a closed system up here over, looks like Manitoba, Canada, and one particular spoke of energy or one particular spoke here in the long-range trough reaching all the way down. You talk about a long-wave trough from Canada all the way to the Gulf Coast. And then you got another arm that kind of is breaking across Montana and on into Nevada and Utah. Hey, take a look at this pattern here, and you say to yourself, "Wow, that's certainly interesting." Now, I want to show you what the European 0Z European run has for this, and for that, let me just on this, and let me bring up the European model.
All right, hang on.
I'll do that by sharing this.
I gotta get you back. What the hell? Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. Having an issue all of a sudden.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. You can hear me, right?
Yep.
Bit of an issue here. Hang on a second. Okay. Let's see if I. There you go. Okay. I guess when you went to switch, it did a bit of a glitch.
Okay. Well, here we are. Now this is the European, and Joe, can there be any more difference in what we were seeing with I remember at the GFS we had a ridge along the eastern seaboard. This is for 240 hours down the road.
Right.
The European, on the other hand, has a closed low off the mid-Atlantic coastline. and where they had all kinds of troughiness. A long range, they had a long wave trough, if you remember, extending from Manitoba down to the Gulf Coast. What does the European have? The European has a ridge, of all things, extending from the Western Great Lakes down to the Gulf. And then they have another cutoff system out here in the West. Two different scenarios, 10 days down the road. You can't have anything more different. And if you're trying to make any kind of a long range outlook based upon what purportedly are your two best long range models, you can't. What consensus can you bring out of this? I mean, it's two different scenarios here. And I just showed this last night to Renata. I said, look at this. I mean, how do you attempt to foresee what, last night, for example, I'll say it. I'll go ahead and say it. WNBC Channel 4, they have been doing for a number of the last couple of years now. They've been providing you with a 10-day forecast. 10 days, not the typical 7 that many television stations show. They do a 10-day outlook. And the guy who was doing the weather last night on Channel 4 here in New York was already talking about Mother's Day and telling all the, saying, well, if, for all the moms out there right now, I'm seeing some rain for Mother's Day. It may not be, maybe you want to get an umbrella for mom. And I'm shaking my head and I'm saying, really? Really? You're able to say with some definite tones in your voice that it's going to rain on Mother's Day? How do you do that? How
It's
do you, what model is you looking at?
It's tough.
You can't. It's 10 days out.
It's tough enough to do that in a stable pattern, but it's suicide to do that in the springtime. It's just absolute
Right.
suicide. You could wind up being wrong in your forecast, even though your reasoning may be correct. Just in the matter if you're dealing with a simple situation. Let's say, you know how many times we get these situations where there's a warm front or some kind of frontal boundary that lies right across New York City, and everybody north and east of there, they're in the 50s, and everybody south and west of there are in the 80s. Or if you get a situation where the front is a little bit further south than that, let's say it's across central New Jersey and runs up to Pennsylvania. How do you do that in the springtime? In the springtime, and I've always said this. I think of all the seasons, the spring is the toughest. It's tougher, the toughest time of year to forecast. It's far more difficult in the spring than it is even in the winter time. Winter time, when you're dealing with snow, it is difficult, but the spring, I think, is the worst time of year for forecasting. You get very frustrated very quickly. And by the way, just going on with your models, take a look. I pulled up the teleconnections of the, because I mean this is really all about how the models are handling the block, and how different they are. I looked at the GFS, and this is from the ensemble members from last night, on the NAO, going out to May 15th, and half the members are negative and half the members are positive. And in fact, they almost, the negative and the positive, they're like mirrors of each other. You've got a couple
Right.
of members that go down well over one standard deviation from the mean. And in fact, one member goes all the way almost to the 2 standard deviations, and you've got one member on the other side that's about 1.5 standard deviations above the mean. So the models as we go forward, and if you look, the spread just gets wider and wider as we start from the current date. You start at May 1st. We're actually uh, rather negative now. We go to the neutral line, and then half of you go this way, half of you go that way. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Right. Right. I mean, look at that. At the end, by the 15th, it's convoluted. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right. So half of them are going up, the other half is going down. What do you believe? Who do you believe? What do you believe?
exactly. So why don't we take a look? Let's look at the European, in terms of what its outcome looks like for this week and beyond, and then we could take a look at the GFS and see if we can figure out what they're doing. So, we know our first system here in the east, and you can see the arm of moisture actually starts to diminish some as we go through the day and into tonight, but it does then pick up a little bit during the overnight. the rain that's out in the ocean goes northwestward into New Jersey and into upstate New York, but has a really tough time getting into New England. And then tomorrow, there's just like a few showers around. I don't know. I'm not really too overly crazy about the kind of day we're going to have on Monday. A little drying into Tuesday, but here comes the next low moving across Illinois and Indiana. It kind of inches towards Lake Erie. The block is going to try to force it to maybe redevelop to our south. This is for Wednesday, and then that moves out. Now here comes the next one with a low in Arkansas on Thursday afternoon, and it sort of just pinwheels its way eastward. At the same time, there's a nice high building up in eastern Canada. There's a 1027 high in James Bay, and that low looks like the European is slower, Joe. It looks like it waits until later Friday into Saturday with wind and rain. And then if this is right, if the European's right, you've got problems here for Sunday because that low is just going to linger. So before it starts to get suppressed to the south. So it's a tough forecast here for the end of next week with regards to how this is all going to play out because the models are struggling with not only positioning, but they're struggling with timing. And then in the longer range, to address what you said, you know, now here's the European actually takes that low from late this week and into this week and then drops it southward toward North Carolina and off the coast of North Carolina. If this were maybe the end of May or early June, might start thinking, the tropical antennas may be going up. But again, this is all going to be about how the models handle the block. And if you look at the GFS has got his own, it's kind of in a different place with this. And we'll switch over to that. And let me just get the precip map here. They're both the same. They're pretty much the same for the first two systems, but you see the third system here on the GFS comes in faster because it's got rain here by, comes in Thursday evening, and the low moves off the Jersey coast and then just gets kicked away to the northeast. There's a big difference in how the models are handling the outcome with this toward the end of the week. So why don't we just, and then down the road with that skinny ridge you talked about, well, that actually paints a different scenario for next week as far as the kind of weather we're going to get because it doesn't quite look as blocky. But I want to take a look fast with the upper air. And here we go. So
right. Well, it depends. It depends upon how one specific system in the end game that turns out, and in the post-mortem, in the aftermath, that's going to determine which of the two models is going to have the better handle, whether or not it's going to be the European with that, 10 days out with that closed system off the mid-Atlantic coast, or whether or not it's going to be the GFS with that skinny ridge predominating all along the eastern seaboard. And again, two different scenarios. You can't get anything more diametrically opposite than what these two models are suggesting.
Right.
Again, 10 days out.
And I'm looking here at the rotation on the upper air for the European in this block. You get the reformation of this sort of double upper low structure from eastern Canada out to the Azores. That forces the system in the plains to slow down and just basically gets shoved underneath and then gets left behind because the system over Newfoundland finally gets to lift out to the northeast, but it just doesn't pick up the system to the south. It just leaves it there, and it's still there at 240 hours. The GFS though, which we'll take a look because this is the main. I think the main difference is just starts with how it handles the system for the end of this week. The GFS says, let's see. So what the GFS does, Joe, it doesn't form this low near Newfoundland. It's got the low out near the Azores, but it's not quite as defined. But it doesn't. It has more of an open trough in Labrador, so that an arm comes around and kind of semi-phases with the system as it approaches the coast Friday night and early Saturday morning, and then the whole thing just drops southeastward out at 40 and 60, and you get troughing comes into the west and you get that skinny ridge in between. So the models are totally they are handling the North Atlantic completely different, and that's where I think the key lies. Of course, we could see it. Well, let's take a look at the Canadian, which we don't do very often here, just to see how the Canadian goes with this, because
Well, the Canadian can be the referee.
well, oftentimes,
But then
if the Canadian and European are on the same page, that's usually where you kind of want to be forecast wise. And let's see, it's loading. The Canadian actually looks probably more like the GFS. So much more. In fact, it has an even stronger ridge in the east for after Mother's Day building. It's the European's completely different from the other two. So I think we have a situation here where we're just going to have to wait until the next Tuesday or Wednesday to figure out which model's got the better handle on what's going on in the North Atlantic, because you're not going to get an answer right now. You're just not.
right, right.
Um, so anyway, I
And then
am.
people who are watching on television say, "Well, why can't they tell me what's going to be like? I've got a barbecue on Mother's Day."
Well, I'm not invited, so I could really care. I have no vested interest in your barbecue, so why should I care what
Yeah.
the weather is like?
Oh well.
Don't you love it when I get onery? When I get like
Yes.
when I get like when I get like a curmudgeon.
Yeah. Well, that's why that's why your grandkids probably say, "Why is Pop Pop so angry today?"
No, Pop Pop is never angry with the grandkids. Although I have to tell you, my grandson, my oldest grandson, he is Mr. Contrary. So we spend the time trying to figure out how to phrase questions in order to get him to agree. Because if you say would you like this, he'll just reflexively say no. You want to do this? No. So
Now, now.
exactly. Um, so he's a lot of fun. My the younger one, who's a little over a year younger, is very sweet. Not to say that my oldest grandson's not sweet. He is, but um, the it's just it's a brain exercise when he's around.
I hear something. The missus is already down here.
Ah,
I guess
excellent.
preparing for her appearance this afternoon. And would you like to share the suggestion that I made, or that she made yesterday to everybody about this
Yes,
week
if
coming
you'd
up?
like. So when Joe's got these late talks this week, and I have no intention of starting a show at 9:30 or 10 o'clock or whatever ungodly hour, uh, you can do it, because it's too much it's too much. I get tired when we get into the evening. But Mrs. Rayo will be filling in for Joe Rayo during this week, which should be lots of fun.
That would be Wednesday and Thursday. You know, I love doing these library talks, and in fact, I paraphrased Bugs Bunny, one of his cartoons, the Witch Hazel Halloween episode, where he says, "Hey,
Yes.
this Halloween is a pretty good racket," you know, and doing library talks from the comfort of your home office and not have to, commute
Oh, it's
to do
great.
this. It's really great. But some of these are coming late in the ball game, so to speak. Now, just a moment here. Just a little. Hold on for a second. Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I'm hearing a ring-a-ding on my headphones, which means that I need to charge the battery. So
You could
instead of
charge
using,
you could charge the battery before the show every day. Just a suggestion.
well, I know these
Yeah, I know.
apparently these batteries have like a shelf life of like 6 hours or whatever. But what
I
I'm going to do
mean,
is I'm going
wait,
to
are you
charge.
putting you've got something that you're actually putting physical batteries into?
No, I'm charging it up with a cable now into the
into the computer. So then the
I
thing will.
listen, I plug my headsets into charge every night after the show is done, so it's always fully charged.
Okay, well, that be the case, but you know what? Now, unlike the normal situation where I would hand the headphones over to Mrs. Rayo, and I'd only be able to hear half of the conversation. So now I'm going to be able to hear both sides of the conversation here. And what she wants me to also mention is that in terms of pollen today, it ranks high, 10.4. I don't know where she's getting this from, maybe the Jewish Medical Center or whatever. Maple, birch, oak, that is the main problem with pollen in the tri-state area today. And also, we've already talked about the elevated risk of fire spread with red flags going on, not just out in the Southwest, but also right here in the little old tri-state area.
Okay. Where is Mrs.
Oh, are
Rayo?
you waiting? Are you awaiting her? Hello,
Yes.
dear. If you will, dear, you may have the seat of honor. Sit down.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
So
Happy Sunday morning.
happy Sunday morning to you. If you don't, if you would please remind your husband to plug his headsets in to recharge after every show. That would be most appreciative. Yeah. He sounds better on the headsets. Otherwise,
I think that's only happened a couple of times.
All right, we're going to cut this right here. We're going to cut this short right.
Okay.
Well, look at that.
Now let me. I wanted to ask you, how are you doing on Wordle?
I didn't do it today. I haven't done it
Okay,
yet today.
I'm just going to tell you.
But I've been doing excellent. There's a couple or few that I actually got on 2.
Yes, yeah. There was so I have there's a I downloaded this app called it's a version of Wordle. It's called Word, WORDE, and it's great because there's a few of them on there, but yet if you specifically get the one that's WORDE, it has a little ad on the bottom of the screen, and it's you don't even notice it. On the others, they're shooting ads left and right in between like every letter you put up, and they were annoying. But so I've been using this app, and it allows for unlimited play. So
you can keep going. That's addictive.
it is, but it's a good way. A good way to pass the time when I'm sitting around and there's nothing on television. So, but it's kind of interesting because I'm at the point now where I just want to give you an idea. I'm at the point now where I've run over I'm at 500. I made 543 attempts. Okay, because Wordle you can only play once a day on the times, which is probably a good thing. But having run through now to 543, I'm now having to come up with words that some of them I don't even recognize, and I've had to hit by accident. But I have a 95% win rate, which is pretty good. And I have 18 times, Renata, that I got it on 2 letters. And there were on 3 of those times where I put it in, like the first word, I had the letters were all in the right spots. And it was just the third letter that was off. And there were a couple of instances where I had it like that in the first, but there were so many word possibilities that I didn't get the actual word correct till about the 5th or 6th time.
That happened to me a couple weeks ago. I had all these more or less rhyming words all the way down, and the final word was shame.
Yes. Yes.
And that was, and I had to replace just one letter, and I'm like, okay. I gotta hit this sooner or later.
Well, I had unch. So that was like lunch, bunch, munch.
Yes.
And then there was one yesterday I did with my choice was either hound or bound. it was OUND, and of course whenever I get to that point, I said, you're going to choose the wrong one, and
Wrong one.
I try to use the word, I try to pick the word that I think is a little more
B.
familiar or is used more. So
Right, right,
it was between bound and hound, and I chose hound because down here a lot of people have
yeah.
hound dogs, and it turned out it was bound, and I knew I was going to pick the
Uh,
wrong one. The other thing I wanted to tell you about, this is more cooking related because I did this morning. So I had an extra box of cornbread mix that I bought. I made cornbread yesterday for dinner,
okay.
and I was looking at the cornbread mix, and I noticed that the ingredients in terms of the what you put in were very similar to what I use when you use pancake mix. So I said, let me try see if I can make pancakes out of the cornbread mix, and
Yeah, you can.
it was perfect. It was, I just used the same recipe for the pancake mix: 1 egg, a tablespoon of oil, and 2/3 of a cup of milk. And I used a cup of the cornbread mix instead of the pancake flour, and I really liked it. It was nice. It was sweet, very very moist, very very tasty pancake. So a suggestion, if you ever want to do something different, use cornbread mix to make pancakes with.
What do you think?
No comment.
No comment.
Miss,
He doesn't like change.
I know, Mr. Bologna Sandwich. Are, 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 are you all set to go?
Oh, I'm all set to go. I think Steve Lapointe made a point that our pollen is really high here in the Northeast, 10.4.
Oh,
So
with
the
all the
trees
dry
are
air and
all
the dry air and the
yielding.
wind, my God,
Yeah. So
it's got to be off the wall.
and in New York State, there's no burn permits or burning allowed through at least the 14th of the month. There's like a burn advisory or something like that. So yeah.
All
Okay.
right,
Anyway,
so
so I
here we
just wanted
go.
to know things. Yeah. Here we go. Go.
Of the following dishes, which are not typically made with some kind of seafood. Oh, this is easy. Bouillabaisse, ossobuco, frito misto, or tempura.
Ooh.
Um. Um. Asambuco, I believe,
And
is not made with.
ossobuco is the correct answer. Which of the following
Yeah.
ingredients are not used in a Bloody Mary, according to the Playboy Bar Guide, which I'm sure you've read religiously? Ketchup, sugar, Tabasco sauce, or Worcestershire sauce.
No, I don't think ketchup belongs in a Bloody Mary.
No, your answer
Right?
is incorrect.
Correct.
The
What
answer,
were my choices? Ketchup.
uh,
Worcestershire sauce is in there.
yes. Your choices
Yes.
were ketchup, sugar, Tabasco, or Worcestershire sauce.
Oh, they don't put a little sugar in or anything like
No
that to sweeten
sugar.
up the.
Yes, no sugar.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
which of the following compounds has not been approved for use in the United States as an artificial sweetener? Is it ace sulfame K, uh, acetaminophen, aspartame, or saccharin?
Acetaminophen is, in other words, Tylenol. So
Correct.
no, that would
Yeah,
be
that wouldn't be good. The original Bellini or Bellini was a mixture of sparkling Italian white wine with what type of fruit juice? Is it apple, orange, peach, or pomegranate?
Oh, I think it's peach. Am
And
I
you
right?
think correctly, dear. It is peach.
All
The
right.
sandwich, the sandwich known as the Reuben, does not have which of the following ingredients? Oh, good God. Boiled ham, corned beef, sauerkraut, or Swiss cheese.
I think sauerkraut.
No, no. Boiled. Would you say boiled what?
Bo-
Boiled
boy, boy,
ham?
boiled ham.
Yes, a Reuben does not have boiled
No,
ham. It's corned beef.
Exactly. Yeah, boiled ham is not in a Reuben. Marzipan is made with what kind of nut? Almond, cashew,
Almonds.
pecan, or a walnut? And the answer
I
is
love
an
marzipan.
is
Almonds.
almond. Which of the following is not a favorable adjective when discussing wine? Is it fat, flinty? I'm sorry. Yes, fat, flinty, leggy, or vigorous?
It's not a descriptive word of wine.
Yes, which
Is that
is
what you
not a
said?
favorable adjective when
Oh,
discussing
well, I
wine.
would think. Oh, see now it's a descriptive word. Well, I'm going to just say fat.
And you
You
are
know, because
correct. A fat wine
yeah,
is
that's
not
right.
a favorable adjective all. Of all
I don't know
commercial
how you would use that in regards to wine, but
right,
anyway. But
of all commercial cooking oils, which of these is the highest in polyunsaturates but low in saturated fats? Is it um, coconut oil, corn oil, olive oil, or safflower oil?
this is what am I looking for again?
Which oil
Not
high in polyunsaturates but low in saturated fats?
low in saturated fat.
Coconut,
Flash
corn,
bangs.
olive, or safflower?
Coconut, corn, olive oil, or safflower. Mm, low in saturated fats. Oh, yeah, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm not sure. Ah, I have no idea. I'll just take a wild guess. Safflower.
Safflower is the correct answer, although, and Joe will remember this, for years the Mazola corn oil commercial would emphasize the fact that they were high in polyunsaturates but low in saturated fats. In the United States, how much beer does the average person drink each year? Is it 24 pints, 24 quarts, or 24 gallons?
24 pints. 24 quarts. I'm gonna say 24 quarts.
No, we guzzle them here in the U.S. It's 24 gallons.
No.
Yeah.
Per person? Per person?
Apparently that's the average person. Now let's see. A 12-ounce can of beer, one can of beer a day for 365 days probably comes out to what? I don't want to hold on. Let
I
me
don't have a
I
calculator here.
I, I do. Hang on a second. Uh okay, so 365 times 12 equals 4,380, right? And
Ounces.
and there's 100 divided by 128 in a gallon comes to 34.21 gallons.
34.21875.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and,
I
and
get
some
people
people
drink,
drink
well,
more.
yeah, a lot of men, but see, now wait a
And
second.
then there's me.
Zero, big fat zero. But most women don't drink a beer a day. That means a lot of these men out there are drinking 2, 3, or even 4 a day. Is that?
A 6-pack a day.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
that's too much.
Yes. Europeans first learned of chocolate from whom? The Africans, the Aztecs, or the East Indians?
Aztecs.
And that is correct. And of course, Briller Jeopardy is thank Scott Briller for preparing these questions for us. And we enjoy doing them. So try that cornbread. Or you know what I may do is the next time, just as an experiment, maybe I'll do 50-50. I'll do half pancake mix, half corn. Use half the pancake flour and half of the cornbread flour. There's a
Yeah,
nice there's a nice sweetness to it. If you love cornbread, you're going to love it in pancake form. I mean, there's no question in my
yeah.
mind.
All right. There
So
you go,
so
folks.
so anyway, since you're going to be doing the show Wednesday and Thursday,
Yeah, I
that's
guess so.
that's going to be lots of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm going to have to do it on our Apple laptop upstairs because he's going
Okay.
to be down here in the office.
Okay. Sounds
So,
great.
this would be a quick education for me, I guess. Hope
Yeah.
nothing goes wrong.
No worries. I'm sure everything will go fine. So we're really looking forward to it. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Okay,
All right,
fun,
all right.
wonderful.
Let's wrap it up. I got to take the dog to the dog park before we get a thunderstorm here.
Yeah, poor JJ. He's waiting with his legs crossed.
Yeah. No. He went out already, but it's very funny. He knows when I put my headsets on, he goes and lays down and goes
Yeah.
to sleep. So he never
He knows
bothers.
party's over for me. I
Yeah.
got to wait a while.
Exactly. He knows. So he's a smart dog. All right. Does Joe want to come on and say
Okay.
goodbye or no?
All right. Have a great Sunday.
Okay.
Hello there.
Leon Probitsky just hit super chat. Thanks, Leon, and thanks everybody for being here on this Sunday. Bill Rogers says he wants to see me doing a YouTube cooking segment. One of these days when I get this broadband in here, I gotta maybe be able to set a camera up in the kitchen. I'll be able to do some stuff. But right now I'm not cooking very much because of the fact that I'm dealing with my Crohn's issue. Which I am feeling. I finally got my medication after waiting 3 months, thanks to the blasted insurance company that took forever to approve it. But I am feeling a lot better now that I had my first round of medication last Friday. So thanks for those of you who have asked about that. Most appreciated. It does it works very quickly.